Roxo Media House.
Wide left goes player Conwright. Little reverse here. Pitch it back to Darius Davis with running room. To the edge. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown. Double D for the TD. Second one of the night. This one from 27 yards out.
You are in the State of the Frogs, presented by the Railhead Smokehouse with TCU head coach Sonny Dykes. And also brought to you by Hub Fort Worth, Old Trapper Beef Jerky, Texas Health Resources, and by Cadillac. Now with the coach, here is the voice of the Frogs, Brian Esteridge.
Welcome into our first edition of State of the Frogs with the head coach, Sonny Dykes. We come to you here this week from Coach Dykes' office. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on. Coach is going to join us here shortly. We'll break down that 38-13 victory over the Colorado Buffaloes, the big win over that team from the Pac-12 last Friday night in Boulder. We'll preview the game this Saturday against Tarleton with the Texans in town, and Coach David Bowden with that one-play breakdown. We'll see what he's got in store for us this week, the one that made the big difference for the Horned Frogs. So a lot to get into here. It's our first edition of State of the Frogs with the head coach, Sonny Dykes, and we started up next after this timeout and a word from our friends at the Railhead.
Simply the best barbecue in Fort Worth. Dine-in, catering, or drive-thru. 2900 Montgomery, just off I-30. Remember, the best barbecue in Fort Worth is at Railhead Smokehouse.
Old Trapper Beefs. Fake protein.
Guys, can we take a quick protein break? Protein City. I got my beans, my bars, my goos, my glumps, my fizz. I don't know what that one is, but you want in?
I'm good, man.
I think Goop was a bad choice.
Old Trapper, what's your beef?
Say hello to the water of tomorrow. Richard's Rainwater. Richard's Rainwater is 100% rain, refreshing, renewable, and the only ingredient we use in our water. Why rain? Because everyone deserves access to clean water, and rain is a 100% renewable resource available everywhere. Drink the rain. Save the planet. Shop now at richardsrainwater.com.
Welcome back into State of the Frogs with the head coach, Sonny Dykes, is alongside as his team rolls in Boulder. 38-13, the final score on Saturday. I guess first impressions, Coach, first time out. You're on the road on the tough trip on the way to Boulder, go to the West Coast, play a night game. All those things, how'd your guys respond?
I thought pretty well, actually. We had a lightning delay on top of that. We had some just kind of strange things happen. It was a 9 o'clock kickoff, I think, for our Central Time. Just all the stuff was kind of unusual, and anyway, our guys worked through it. I think that we didn't play particularly well in the first half, but I think we played really well defensively. Got some critical stops, and then once we settled in on offense, I felt like that we played a whole lot better the second half, and that was more indicative of hopefully how we're going to play moving forward. You're
one of those guys that doesn't leave a stone unturned. We've talked about that time and time again. Had you run through a lightning delay to start a game?
Yeah, actually we had. I mean,
wow.
It's one of the things we had talked about because, this time of year you're going to get some weather situations early. And so, Kaz and his strength staff, that was one of the scenarios that they talked about is what they were going to do in the locker room and actually practiced it. And so it was good. Our guys just kind of did exactly what they were supposed to do, just relaxed, had got some rest. It was strange sitting around the hotel for that long. Normally that's a Saturday when you're waiting to play a night game and there's college football on and there's some stuff to kind of get you going. A lot of soap operas on Friday, not much really on TV. And so our guys, we're anxious to get going and get playing, but I thought we handled the delay well. And as I said, I think the good thing I liked about our team is nobody panicked. And, we didn't get off to a great start, but everybody just kept focused and doing their job and paying attention to what we could control, and that was our performance. And like I said, better second half.
I asked you last week before that first game, I said, what's keeping you up at night? And you said, hey, you just don't know how a team will respond. Face a little adversity, new guys, new coaching staff. You had that little bit of adversity. You talked about the fact that everyone stayed calm. Throughout the game, though, when there was some adversity, how did your players react?
I thought really well, surprisingly well, honestly. I think, the guys had a lot of confidence. I think we all did. I think we practiced well. I think as a coaching staff, we had practiced at such a level where we felt like we were going to play well. And even though it was a little bumpy early, I don't think anybody panicked. And I think it always starts at the top and kind of trickles down. And so, I had a lot of confidence. I know our coaches had a lot of confidence, and I think as a result our players did. And they knew they just needed to keep playing and keep going. So to me, that was the big test that we needed to pass was just how were we going to handle, adversity and when things got a little bit rocky. And guys just, focused on what they could control and did their job. And, one thing we talked about was playing hard for 60 minutes and the reward that was going to give us. And so, those guys did that. We just kept going and kept playing and kept grinding. And once we did that, we got into a little bit of a flow.
There were plenty of big plays in this game. To me, though, one of the bigger ones happened early on, and that was a 4th and short for Colorado, and your defense stepped up. I mean, if they go in and score there, the mindset might be a little different for your team.
Yeah, no doubt. I thought the 3rd down play and the 4th down play both on that drive were critical plays. And two outstanding plays. The defense was really running. That was the thing to me that was most impressive, just going back and looking how fast our guys played, particularly early in the game. We had to play a lot of defense in the first half. I think defended 48 snaps, if I'm not mistaken, in the first half. And you could tell a little bit late in the second quarter we were a little bit gassed and a little winded, but we kept playing hard. I think the rotation that we used consistently throughout the game, where we played a lot of different players, really helped us. And, and I think that's the good thing is that we have in this team is we feel like we have a lot of depth. We can play a lot of different players and keep guys fresh. And when they're in the game, they can play really hard as a result.
You hold them to the field goal early. And then to sort of jumpstart things comes a guy that you told us ahead of time you had to get him some touches. And you think he's a super weapon in special teams, and it was with Darius Davis.
Yeah, that was a huge play. I mean, I think that kind of calmed everybody and maybe kept us from pressing maybe as much as we were up to that point. And, he's a guy that just makes those kind of plays. You expect something good to happen every single time he touches the ball. And obviously we got him a reverse later in the game, and he did the same thing with it. And he knows how to score. He knows how to make people miss in the open field and finish plays. And he's fun to watch. I know that.
I think you finished with, 7 penalties? Not too bad for
penalties,
game one.
Yeah.
On that return, to me, there was one of those D's that kicked in for you, discipline, because you almost had a block in the back. And he knew exactly what to do, make sure he didn't get the block in the back, and Darius was able to score on it.
Yeah, I thought Jacarius Spivey, and Chase Curtis both made great decisions. They had opportunities to block people, and a lot of times those are called clipping, and both of them screened guys with their back, and that was a big key to getting Darius to the wall was – I thought we did a good job on the gunners, and he stepped up. The guy overran him a little bit, then he got to the wall, and we made some really good decisions. I think that was the thing that I was impressed with early in the first game of the season, jitters, all that kind of stuff, and both of those guys made really good decisions and made sure we didn't get a penalty.
You go in at halftime, up 7-6 at that point after the Darius touchdown. And then some adjustments occurred. Coach Ricker, especially along that offensive line, adjusted a few things that really paid off in the second half of the run game.
Yeah, we were able to run the ball a lot better second half. I think we were, committed to running it. I think we had some favorable boxes in the second half, and then our guys did a great job of making plays when we got on the ball. I mean, I thought we played really well at center and left guard. I thought Steve and Alon really played outstanding football games. Thought the offensive line as a whole played well. Didn't give up any sacks and really no pressures. So it was a good performance by those guys and what we expected. I mean, look, we expect that group to be a good group. They've been a good group really since we got here in the spring, and we felt like that those guys should take over the game, and they felt like they did the second half.
Yeah, you ended up with 346 yards in that second half of offense. To me, the thing that stood out was this is a team that you still only ran, 53 plays or so and averaged nearly 8 yards a clip.
Yeah, we did. We ran the ball really effectively, and, our passing game early was not very good. Just didn't get in sync. Made some uncharacteristic mistakes early on. Had some guys bust some routes. I mean, it was one of those things where we didn't execute well at all offensively in the first half. But I thought as the game went on, the guys settled in and did their job. And, as I said, felt like that the physical part of the game started to tilt our direction, and particularly up front.
9 different receivers caught the ball, 8 different running backs. You played 3 quarterbacks, 22 guys made tackles. You told us before the game in our pregame show, you said all hands on deck, and it was.
Yeah, played 70 players in the game, so it was fun to get those guys to play. I think that's the kind of football team that we have. We have a lot of depth, and we have a lot of guys that I think can contribute and have roles, and so our job is to find ways to allow them to help our team win. And a lot of different guys did a really good job and played hard Friday night. And some young guys got in the game, and we gave up a late touchdown. I was a little discouraged, but it certainly wasn't because of lack of effort. It was just one of those things we got beaten a one-on-one. But I thought our young players played well, and we played a lot of those freshmen. That freshman group is going to be a really good group for us, and just excited about what those guys can do and watch them develop.
I loved Max Duggan's quote post-game. Obviously, he comes in after the injury to Chandler Morris, and he says, hey, I know what my role is. I knew my role was to be the best backup that I could be to help Chandler, and then if the team needed me to come in, and boy, I thought he did.
Yeah, no, Max did great. I mean, I think when your starting quarterback gets hurt, there's usually a lot of anxiety associated with that. Well, it's not the case with us. I mean, I think everybody believes in Max and understands what he's capable of and what he can do. And he came in and did exactly what I thought he would do. Played very well, ran the ball very well. Kind of stumbled a little bit, or he might have had about an 85-yard touchdown had he not stumbled. But just brought, I think, some confidence and a spark to us. And and I thought Chandler played well the second half. I thought Max played well the second half, and I thought Sam played well when he had an opportunity. So I was excited about all 3 quarterbacks, and the competition is going to keep getting better and better. But I thought it was a great start.
You walked out when Max was warming up, going in for Chandler. You fist bumped him. You tapped him on the helmet. What'd you say to him?
I just told him, do what you do. You know what I mean? And he, like I said, he's such a highly respected part of our football team. I have so much respect for him personally, just watching him through the years and the way he competes, and I know how tough he is. And so it was fun to see him get an opportunity, and it was fun to see him play well.
All right, final thing was you named the offensive line the MVP of your offense, the entire group. You thought they played that well, huh?
I did. Yeah, I thought they did. I thought that was, that's what we needed. We, as I told those guys over and over and over again, there's really no such thing as a good football team without a great offensive line. And so I like that group a lot. I love the leadership they provide. There's a lot of maturity in that group, and I'm excited about the start and watching them continue to get better and better.
All right, that's game 1 for the Horned Frogs in the books now with that win over the Colorado Buffaloes out of the Pac-12. Got a lot more to get into here on State of the Frogs with Sonny Dykes, including a little bit later on we'll preview Tarleton. They're up next for TCU. And we've got our question of the week for Coach Dykes after this word from our friends at Hub International.
The Hub Fort Worth family is a passionate, energetic team of insurance professionals that have the same common goal in mind: helping businesses and individuals protect their health, property, and financial well-being. Their objective is to maximize the options available to businesses, families, and individuals while helping you make the choices that suit each unique situation and challenge. Their clients look to them for guidance in navigating the cumbersome world of insurance and investments. Their experience and personal relationships combined with their creativity enables them to craft solutions that fit your specific circumstances. Their guiding principle is, don't tell me how much you know, just show me how much you care. Since their founding in 1966, they've enhanced their offerings to include a comprehensive range of services, including employee benefits, property and casualty, and personal lines insurance. Follow them and learn more on their social media pages. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Hub Fort Worth.
Welcome back into State of the Frogs with the head coach, Sonny Dykes. He'll be back with us to break down the matchup with Tarleton coming up. Right now, though, it's time for our one-play breakdown. That one key play in the game that you might have missed that set the tone. We talked about it earlier with the head coach, and that was the 4th down in the first quarter. where we saw a couple of Horned Frogs really blow this play up and set the tone early for this defense. Coach Bowden is back in our studio to draw this one up. All right, Coach, let's break this thing down, because the one thing that stood out to me was the play of Big Dom Williams on the inside, Jamoy Hodge as well. They blew this thing up, didn't they?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Brian. Those two guys certainly showed up on film and on the stat sheet for that critical play. There's a lot more to it, but take a look at those two guys real quick. We look up here. This is the 4th and 1 formation that you're referring to here, with Dominic Williams and Jamoy Hodge right behind him. And really, Dominic did a great job not only protecting him, but also making the play himself. So he kept him nice and clean. But I drew this up down here. I want to take a quick look and just kind of talk about versus an odd defense, versus any odd defense. Really, the age-old question is what you do with this overhang player to the strong side. Okay, so before we get into this formation, this is kind of a typical tray or trio formation, whatever you refer to it as, but it's a tight end with 2 receivers to that same side. This is a traditional formation. It's not unbalanced because you have a receiver on the backside. But the question is what you do with this guy, because obviously this is on a board. It's kind of condensed, but if you can imagine this side here being the field, okay, so that's the wide side of the field. What do you do with this guy? Do you overhang him and put him in an apex, which is splitting the difference between the end-man line of scrimmage and the number 2 receiver? You could do that, but then, of course, now you lose your edge on that side, right? So then the other thing would be, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put him down over the tight end or outside the tight end. Now if I do that, I'm left 2-on-2 over here, and I've got to get in some kind of man concept on that side. So that's a decision that every defensive coordinator who runs any type of odd has to make, right? So, we fast forward to this one. It's actually a little bit extra. So now we're in an unbalanced formation. Okay, so we talked about last night on Dissecting the Frogs, which you can find on frogstoday.com. When you look at that, okay, there was no receiver on the backside. Okay, so really when I went back and looked even more, Brian, these guys here up front, they shifted the formation. And I want to kind of talk about what that means and what those techniques are. They're all based on numbers. So you at home, as we continue to do this throughout the year, you'll be able to make sense of it when we talk about the defensive technique numbers, okay? So just real quickly, if we could, this here, if it's in a 0, okay, that's line up head up to the center, okay? They go to a 2-eye is inside shade of the guard, okay? To a 2 is head up, okay? A 3 is the outside shade of the guard, 4-eye, 4, 5, and then when you get to the tight end, it actually goes inside is a 7, then it goes to a 6 and a 9. Why that is, you'd have to go back and ask Bum Phillips, who talked to Bear Bryant back when he was at his A&M days. They came up with the system. I'm just the messenger. So anyhow, that's what it is. So they went and shifted the formation to a 5, a strong 1. And really, when I went back and looked at it, he was almost in the gap here, back here, in Terrell Cooper. And I said last night on the show it wasn't a blitz. However, somebody can make a good argument that they were trying to get to a bear formation, okay, on the snap, not line up in it. Okay, so what does that mean? So when the old 85 Bears, Buddy Ryan's defense, everyone refers to that great defense in 85. What that means is there's a guy over the center and each guard on the outside. So 3 men consecutively covered with a linebacker behind it, okay, 2 edge players. So essentially turns into a 5-man front, okay, with a linebacker behind it. They didn't line up in that, but as we talked about last night, you saw D. Winters take this gap. Okay, on this side, Dylan Horton's trying to move inside. Doesn't get to that gap, but you can tell he's moving inside, and Terrell Cooper's doing the same thing. And then we saw Dominic Williams working over the center. So, whether that was called or not, I don't know, but they were certainly working there post-snap. So all that amounted to those guys, each guy doing their job, right? So we saw, obviously Dominic Williams stood out. We stood out here, Jamoy Hodge. But really, we got to talk about Hodges and him setting it. He was flying off the edge, setting it to force it back inside. Okay, Josh Newton at his corner position. Normally, he's not. They don't take him into account. The offensive line, during the run game, they don't listen to count cornerbacks. But they have to in this case because he has no receiver threat. So he came up and set an edge right away. He got ragdolled, tossed. And that's not a knock. He's a corner. He's going up against an offensive tackle. That should happen, but he did his job because, again, kept everything inside, and that's his job at corner. All right, so he did a great job there. So all these guys, if you go down the line, did their job, would amount to a huge 4th down stop. And, when you do that, that time of the game, early on in the game, it set the tone that they were ready to play. That defense was ready to play out there in Boulder.
All right, so if Colorado checks out of this play to the other side, what's Coach Gillespie got in store for him there?
Okay, so I look at that and I wonder the same thing. I said, what could they have done differently if they did decide, if Colorado decided to go to the strength, and really it looks even more advantageous as we walk, as you look at the film, because again, this is the field. Remember, there's a lot of space out here and a lot of grass to cover. So on this side here, it looks really tempting. Now, I think what TCU did, and I think I didn't talk about it as much on Dissecting the Frogs as maybe I should have, but not only did they shift the front, they shifted the linebackers to the strength as well to sort of balance that out a little bit. Okay, so when I talk techniques for defensive line, okay, all you do simply, if we want to talk the same language, and we're going to hear, I'll tell you what, by the end of the season, you at home and I will be talking the same language. When you do that, you look at the second level, you just add a 0 to it. So if this guy's lined up the outside chain of the guard, instead of a 3 technique, he's now in a 30. So that's how we'll refer to it. So he was in a 30. He was outside the tight end. And then this guy here was shifted back in. That was Hodge. He was shifted as well. So I think that's the only reason I can come up with why Colorado decided to go to the weak side where they really didn't have the numbers. They looked at they thought they might have had leverage. And again, last night we talked a lot about numbers and leverage. That's the only thing I can come up with, but it's a really kind of a stretch on why they didn't go this route. Okay, some of the things that they could have gone into, because they do show power in their game. They showed it plenty of times last Friday night. They showed out 21 personnel, under center, old school power. They showed the shotgun, single back power. So they have that in their arsenal. Surprised they didn't go there, especially if they had numbers. There's a lot of things you can do. Okay, if you look at it, okay, you can block this guy here. Okay, you can block down, all right, and go all the way back. Although that's a long way to travel. Okay, to be responsive for those guys. And normally on power, you see the guard pulling. Well, this is what the odd defense does. It makes it really tough. In order for the guard to pull, he's going to have to work all the way back. That's a tough block for a guy who just snapped a football. Okay, if you can imagine, he really can only take no more than a 6-inch step. If he does, his thigh gets in the way of the snap. There's some problems there. They can do it, okay, but it's certainly something that they're not always comfortable with. So a lot of times what they'll do in order to that is switch the pull call to the center. Okay, so he'll do that. He'll block here, and now he becomes your puller, and he can wrap up inside here. Okay, and then you've got two for two backside to take care of that, although that's not always a great block, especially if these guys are flying over the top. So, I think they played it well. A lot of times, especially on 4th and 1, you'll see in an odd defense, walk those guys up, okay, to play on the line of scrimmage. I think they created that. They did the same thing, just did it post-snap. So honestly, while it didn't look advantageous on film initially, it made a lot of sense. They just they didn't have the numbers there. They just shifted it to the strength. That baited Colorado to go weak, and they paid for it. I personally, if I was Colorado again, still would have went to the strong side, go where the numbers are. Let's not, us as football coaches will tend to mess this thing up, right? It's a little bit easier that go where they're not, go where you have the numbers. And certainly they created quads here with him uncovered. So why not? Just go attack that. But I bet you they're saying the same thing in the film room now. But it paid off for TCU. They took care of business.
Perfect there, Coach Bowden. Great breakdown on that big 4th down play early on. You might have missed. It's our one-play breakdown. We'll do it every week here on this edition of State of the Frogs with the head coach, Sonny Dykes. All right, more still to come. Coach is going to join us. We'll break down the Tarleton matchup and What's Your Beef? It's a brand-new segment that you won't want to miss. We do that after we do this.
Old Trapper Beefs. Tough snacks.
Out here, nothing comes easy. That's why you gotta be tough. The truck, it's tough. My crew, definitely tough. But Old Trapper taught me the value of tenderness.
Old Trapper, what's your beef?
Oh, it's a puppy.
The Flying T Club provides the everyday TCU fan and alum the ability to specifically support TCU student-athletes. Flying T Club offers 3 levels of memberships. The Flying T Club is a nonprofit organization supporting the brand development of TCU student-athletes through a series of unique event-based networking opportunities, which are exclusive to our members. These events provide a great social engagement tool for our members and student-athletes alike. Follow them on Instagram at Flying T Club or online at flyingtclub.com.
Texas-based Happy Water offers the best-tasting, sugar-free kids drink ever made. Happy Water comes in 4 delicious flavors that you can find at local retailers and on Amazon. Each pouch contains 0 grams of sugar, 0 calories, and 0% juice. Head to happydrinks.com for more information and to purchase Happy Water. That's HAPIDrinks.com. Live happy, be happy, drink happy.
Back we come here on State of the Frogs. Time now for our Old Trapper What's Your Beef segment. Now, generally, that's a negative comment, but in the state of Texas, beef's positive, right, Coach?
Yeah, beef jerky especially.
Exactly.
So we can handle that for sure. What's your beef? Well, I'm good with that.
All right, good deal. Our question this week comes from Mary Sue. Let's take a listen.
Hi, I'm Mary Sue Blackwell, and I'm originally from Chicago, but I live in the Fort Worth area these days, and I have a question for Coach Dykes. What is it about Fort Worth that you like better than Dallas these days, now that you've moved to our special town?
All right, Coach, that's a legitimate one. What stands out about Fort Worth for you?
Yeah, the thing about Fort Worth is I love being in the Metroplex. DFW to me is the best place to live in the country, but I love the small town vibe of Fort Worth, and the community is different. It's just a sense of community here, and the way Fort Worth supports TCU and the way TCU supports Fort Worth are aligned, and it's just a blast to be part of this community. TCU is the only show in town, and that makes it a lot of fun. You
grew up in West Texas, and they always say Fort Worth is where the West begins. It kind of feels like West Texas.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's just a mentality here that's a little bit different, and that I really enjoy. I enjoy the TCU folks. I enjoy the Fort Worth folks. They're just good people to be around.
All right, thank you, Mary Sue. That's your What's Your Beef for this week.
Old Trapper Beefs. Last bag.
There's plenty for both of you.
Old Trapper, what's your beef?
Simply the best barbecue in Fort Worth. Dine in, catering, or drive-through. 2900 Montgomery, just off I-30. Remember, the best barbecue in Fort Worth is at Railhead Smokehouse.
Welcome back in here to State of the Frogs with the head coach, Sonny Dykes. By the way, you notice the old trapper in the background. Yeah, we hooked up the staff with some of that beef jerky as well. Each week here on State of the Frogs, we're going to show you different parts of the football offices that you may not get a chance to see week in and week out. This is Coach Dykes' office, is at least part of it. Pretty nice pad you got here, man.
It is, yeah, it's nice. Got some nice new furniture and got to get some game balls and stuff to fill this stuff up with, but got one Friday night, so anxious to get it up there and get it going.
Well-deserved one, as a matter of fact. All right, so coming up on Saturday night, the Frogs host their first home game of the year. You got the Texans of Tarleton in town. I'll be honest with you, I love the fact that these two teams are playing, about 90 minutes apart down in Stephenville, not even that far, really, and you get an opportunity to kind of show the love here in the state of Texas.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, I think to me, a lot of the non-conference opponents, I think it needs to be local teams, and particularly teams from Texas. I think that's just makes sense for us when we're going to play, an FCS team, and so I think it, makes sense to play these guys. And Todd Whitten has done a fantastic job at Tarleton. It's strange. This is his third go-around as the head coach there, which typically doesn't happen. And I've known Todd a long time. He was actually a graduate assistant for my dad. Way back when I was young at Texas Tech, and so have a lot of respect for him. He's a really bright offensive mind. They'll be a good football team, and he's had a ton of success there.
Yeah, he's kind of like you two. He's a baseball guy.
Yeah.
Stephen F. did.
Yeah, Todd was a whole lot better than I was. I think got drafted pretty high, and Todd was a good athlete.
Yeah. All right. You think about his team right now. The one thing that he went out and got was a quarterback. He was able to get a transfer from Kentucky. Bo Allen is a guy who can really spin it, can't he?
Yeah, he can. I mean, I think when you put the tape on, that's the thing that stands out is you've got a guy that was a very heavily recruited player. You can certainly see why. He's got a big arm, can make the throws. They have two really big receivers, guys that are long and athletic and fast, and they do a really, really nice job. Hit a couple of back shoulders, throw some fade routes, do some things that'll certainly challenge you defensively, and they've got a quarterback that can put it in the right spot and some wide receivers that can go get it.
Yeah, and a defense that'll be aggressive, won't they? I mean, you're just looking at the history of them.
Yeah,
after you.
Yeah. They're an odd front, really a traditional, old school odd front. Kind of a 3-4 defense, which you don't see that version of the way they play much anymore. But got a great defensive coordinator. Tyrone Nix has been around. Look at his resume, and it's really impressive. And they'll play hard. They're gonna definitely edge pressure you. That's one thing you're going to see a lot of is edge pressure, both in the run game and And in the passing game, it's something we're going to have to prepare for.
The one thing I remember about Tyrone Nix when he was at Southern Miss and at South Carolina is he'd have defensive linemen standing up.
Yeah.
And coming at you in a full sprint.
Yeah,
Is that still the case? Will
Yeah,
we see that?
I mean, we'll see some creative stuff, I'm sure. I mean, they're going to move people around and try to confuse you a little bit, and our offensive line will have to do a great job communicating and make sure they're all on the same page.
They got the big win over Mississippi Valley State to open up the season, so they got a game under their belt. And the one thing you pointed out was, listen, this is a roster full of Texans who wanted to play. A lot of them wanted to play at TCU. They'll have something to prove.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, look, these games are always going to be difficult. You're going to get everybody's best shot when you're playing against an FCS team. And, and this team's talented. I mean, they took a lot of transfers. They've got some guys that can really play. They've got good size up front defensively. Their defensive backs are long and athletic. And, they're impressive. You just watch them cover kickoffs. They got a bunch of guys that can run. Their kickoff return unit's really good. Got a good returner, and they do a nice job executing. So just all the stuff, that you see, you put the film on, you go, wow, this is a really well-coached football team and a team full of really good athletes.
What are a couple of things that you wanted your group to work on this week, especially leading into this game, coming off a game one that you saw on film?
Well, I think the big thing offensively is just execute better. I think that's the thing that we saw, two different tales of halves, really, where in the first half, guys really didn't do our job. We busted stuff. We made some bad decisions. It was uncharacteristic for us. We haven't done that at all in practice, and we got in the game a little bit and did that. And, I just want to see us come out and execute at a really high level. And then defensively, I think we just need to continue to play like we did. I mean, I love the effort that we had defensively. I thought I thought our guys played really hard, ran to the ball well. I thought we really tackled well. I think we missed 2 tackles the whole night against Colorado. So I was really impressed with that effort, and it needs to carry over.
Is this game the perfect example of what you've been talking about, of being consistent with your emotions week in and week out?
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing we've talked about at length. I think that, for us to get where we want to go as a program, we've got to not be up and down all the time. And I think that's something that, our guys were excited to play last week, and we've got to be really, really excited to play this week. Got to be excited to play in 2 weeks. I mean, it's just the way it has to be. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. The thing that we try to talk about is, playing to our standard and going out and playing at the level that we expect to play at no matter who we play. It doesn't matter if we're playing Tarleton or it doesn't matter if we're playing Alabama. We have to go out and play our very best, and we're not going to be satisfied if we don't. And I think that's the kind of mentality that we want to have.
You've run through some tunnels in your day. You've run through the tunnel here before. You just haven't let them out of the tunnel here.
Yeah.
Do you still have butterflies when you do that?
Yeah. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, that's one of the odd things about college football is, there's all the pregame anxiety. You just never know what's going to happen. I mean, you look around college football, the games that happened, this weekend were crazy games. And there's just, they come down to 1 or 2 plays so often, and sometimes it's things you've prepared for over and over and over again, and they just don't get executed the way you want them to. So there's always anxiety, which is part of what's going on, part of the emotions, but there's also excitement, and it's going to be fun to come into the stadium as the head coach, and excited about doing that. Hopefully we'll have a great crowd. I think we will, and our guys are going to be really excited to play, and I'm looking forward to a great home atmosphere.
Yeah, it's going to be fun here on Saturday night. The Horned Frogs and the Tarleton Texans here in Fort Worth. Coach, thanks for this. This was fun.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Appreciate it. Yeah, I look forward to it.
Let's do it again next week.
All right, we'll do it next week.
All right, sounds good. That is State of the Frogs with the head coach, Sonny Dykes. Big thank you to all who helped make this possible. Don't forget the Horned Frogs and the Tarleton Texans coming up on Saturday night. We look forward to seeing you there. We're back next week with another edition of State of the Frogs. Until then, have yourself a great week.
Roxo Media House.